I just wanted to talk to you today a little bit about the evaluation that we'll be doing over the next 2 and a bit years of the New Limbs for Kids program. But before I start, I know that some of you participated in our evaluation of the Carers, Children and Youth program, and I spoke with some of you here, I think nearly 3 years ago, and I really appreciated your candour at that time in telling me what your concerns were about the program and what your hopes were as well. And I noticed that as you've gone through the evaluation and spoken to Barbara or completed the survey, people have been really honest in talking about their concerns. And our job has been really to try and communicate any of those to Limbs for Life so that the program is really responding to your needs. To this end, we have written 3 quite long reports. I'm not going to summarise them today because they're each about 40 pages long, and that would be a really boring presentation. But if you'd like to read them, you could either email me at my email address here. So I just wanted to tell you some of the methodological background to the evaluation. What we're trying to do is conduct 2 types of evaluation in one. This is really common when we're doing health program research. We're looking at the process evaluation, which is about the whole process of the design of the program and how it's delivered and how responsive that program design is to your needs and to fit in with what you want. So the questions we're really looked at is how well has the program been implemented? What are the feedback mechanisms for participants? And how has this feedback shaped the program design? Because it's really important in a program like this that it meets the needs of the families involved. There's no point having a program if it's just designed from the top down and not taking into account the needs of the people who it's supposed to serve. Secondly, we're looking at the impact evaluation. So how well has the program achieved its stated aims and goals? Is it doing what it set out to do? And how well is it doing that? And to look at those, we're using a framework called the Re-Aim framework. So there's 5 dimensions that we pay attention to in doing a Re-Aim evaluation. So reach, who are the people that the program is reaching? Efficacy or effectiveness, is the program effective in meeting the needs of the people who are part of it? Adoption, has it been well received and taken up or not? Implementation, directly related to those questions of process, and the maintenance, which is questions of sustainability. And this idea of maintenance was really important in our end-term report and was contributed to the NIB supporting the program for another 2.5 years. I'm an anthropologist, so what I like to do in my job, my profession, is all about engaging with people and communities. So we tried, in the spirit of anthropology, we tried to privilege the voices of the parents and the families who took part in the program and the program evaluation. We couldn't include the voices of people who weren't part of the evaluation just because we can't. If we don't know what you think, we can't include it. We had difficulties in initially getting the data, so we undertook a fairly significant redesign of the evaluation at the end of the first year of the implementation. So that was probably 18 months into the funding period. And so at the end we used a simple online survey and a face-to-face or telephone interview. And these were undertaken by Barbara Hogarth, who some of you may have spoken to. And Barbara's going to be involved in this evaluation again this time. And we sought to use the information you gave us to inform the Limbs for Life program design. Where we got information that we thought was really important and that Limbs for Life needed to know now, we were quite direct in communicating that straight to Dorothy and Mel in order to allow them to design the program and shape it in response to your feedback. So, what did we recommend? So, we felt that the CCY program was meeting to some extent the needs of the Victorian-based families. But there needed to be some more recognition that not everybody wants to engage in the program in the same way. So not everyone wants to go to events with other families. Some people actually prefer to have engagement through online forums or sort of less face-to-face means. We also had a number of people in the evaluation who weren't based in Victoria but really had a lot of informational and support needs that weren't being met properly by the program. And so we were able to identify a need to expand it beyond the Victorian borders. But what we were really careful in emphasising is that if the program was to be expanded outside of Victoria, there needs to be a lot of care taken not to compromise the meeting of the needs of your population, of the people in Victoria. You know, the program was doing some things really well in Victoria, and I think we thought that needs to continue. You know, there's no point having a program and seeking to sustain it and then not looking after the core group of people that it was aimed at in the initial phase. We had a lot of participants who said that they wanted to be much more involved in the actual delivery and the design of the programs. So we also recommended that there should be greater engagement of parents in the planning and delivery of the events that form the CCY program. So we also recommended that the design of the program needs to really be responsive to the needs of parents. And, you know, these needs are going to change as your child develops. So it needs to be a constant process of engagement. It's not a static process, but the program needs to really take on board feedback on a constant basis. We also noticed that people talked about two sociological ideas and that these needed to be applied in practical ways to meet your needs. One thing that really came out, even at the very first consultation day here nearly 3 years ago, was this idea of bodily habitus. So the familiarity and the normalisation of a body of people's bodies, regardless of what they're like. You know, so need to be able to see bodies in all of their diversity, not just bodies that don't have limb difference. And so there needs to be opportunities for children to see other children's bodies that have limb difference and also adults' bodies with limb difference. And I know that this is a really big issue in a lot of schools. Just digressing a little, my partner has an arm amputation and below elbow. And I've got a 6-year-old, and most of his friends have never seen anybody with a different type of body before. So there's a real need to, you know, teach children that bodies come in all shapes and sizes, and normal bodies are in all shapes and sizes, and they can achieve just the same as anybody else. You know, so this idea of bodily habitus. And it's important that the children who have limb difference have a sense of being comfortable with their own bodies. The other idea was this idea of sociality, the connections that we form with other people on the basis of some sort of bodily or biological variable. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the right word. And so having forums where you can talk to other parents who have also experienced limb difference is important. And by focusing on these concepts, you're attending to the psychosocial needs of not only the parents, but also of the children and their siblings. There seemed to be not such a focus on siblings in the initial program design, but many participants talked about how, you know, it's not just that we need to focus on the child or with limb difference or the parent, we need to focus on the family unit as a whole, and that's really essential. There's also a need to provide safe environments where people feel like they can freely talk about their experiences, including the challenges, because often in programs there can be a focus where you only talk about the positive aspects of life, but life can be difficult for people, you know, for everyone. So having a safe environment where you can talk about that is good. And there's a need to have multi-age environments so that children who are preschool can see older children and vice versa. You know, and this all contributes to that idea of normalisation, or I call it bodily habitus. And from an evaluation perspective, we were undertaking evaluations twice a year, and we felt that was too onerous on participants. So in the next phase of evaluation, we're seeking to only do the evaluation once a year. So as Fiona mentioned, Limbs for Life is now in a phase of rolling out the CCY program in the new Limbs for Kids program, which will be delivered at a national basis. And this will involve a greater use of web-based materials, and also it will rely on a greater involvement of parents on the ground level to deliver many of the events and some of the activities. From an evaluation perspective, what we're seeking to do is collect baseline data as people register in the LIMS for Kids program, and then we will be conducting an evaluation at the end of this year and at the end of next year. So just one evaluation a year. This year we have to have two because we need to have a baseline against which we can evaluate, so to see the impacts of the program. And there's also, we're hoping to have some interviews as well, because we found that the questionnaires weren't fully able to capture all of the nuances of experience. So interviews were really useful in that. And like I said before, I'm an anthropologist. I like words and stuff and talking to people. Anyway, thank you. I hope that gave you a little overview of where we were and where we're going and where we're coming from. If you have any questions or concerns or anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. As I mentioned, Barbara will be the research assistant on the program again. Thanks for your time.